Greetings! Welcome back to my kitchen and to another realistic look at what I've been cooking and eating lately. The holiday season is in full swing and I've been cooking up so much cozy comfort food. I'm excited to share it with you, so let's get started. It has really been feeling like winter here in Colorado. It's snowed a few times already. And if you know me, you know I'm a big baby when it comes to the wintertime. I hate the cold, I get seasonal depression, so I'm not a fan of the short days. But I know winter here in Colorado is nowhere near as bad as it is in other parts of the country. I'm trying to keep that in perspective, but I'm a California girly at heart. But soup keeps me going. Soup keeps me alive during this season. I kicked off this week with a big batch of my vegan broccoli cheddar soup. So I come back to this soup every single year when it starts to get cold because it reminds me of clam chowder, which was my all-time favorite soup before I went vegan. Because it's got similar vibes, it's got that thick and creamy base, it's got the big chunks of potatoes, and that's just like the epitome of comfort food for me. And I know blending cashews and potatoes is one of the oldest tricks in the book for vegans, but if somehow you haven't tried this yet, you need to. I mean, there are store-bought vegan heavy cream substitutes out there nowadays, but they're more expensive and I don't like any of them as much as I do just cashews and potatoes. It's just so good. I've also been trying to develop more homemade bread recipes, so this was my first prototype of vegan dinner rolls. I based this off of a Japanese milk bread recipe. I wanted them to be as soft and fluffy and squishy as possible, and they actually came out really well for a first try. I do have one or two little things I want to tweak about the recipe before I put it on the blog, but I will share it soon for sure. The next day I wanted to make a big batch of gyoza, and I wanted to make them entirely from scratch, like wrappers and all. Making your own wrappers is pretty tedious, but it's also really satisfying to me, and I feel like it makes me a better chef the more things I can learn to make from scratch. It's a really simple dough, it's just flour, salt, and hot water. Knead till it's smooth, and then let it rest so that the flour can hydrate and the gluten can relax so it's easier to roll out. Then you poke a hole in the dough to make a donut shape and divide it in half and roll it out into 2 ropes. Then you divide those ropes into smaller pieces. Rolling them all out is the most tedious part of the process. I also think I had added just a little bit too much liquid to my dough so it was stickier than I was used to, which meant I had to use a lot more flour than usual when rolling it out. And I also think I may have rolled the wrappers a little too thin, so this process took longer than I expected, but I did learn a lot, I'll say. You see the pros making these, they're able to roll the wrappers out perfectly round on their own. I had to use a cookie cutter to get the right shape. And make sure to keep the dough and the already rolled wrappers covered while you're working because they do dry out pretty fast. The filling was a combination of veggies and crumbled tofu, so I finally chopped some green cabbage and carrots, and then I salted those just to draw out some of the moisture. And I let them sit in the salt for about an hour, and then I squeezed that moisture out before adding it to the filling mixture. Then I had some dried shiitake mushrooms. I always have these in my pantry. They pack so much flavor. You just soak them in boiling water before you chop them up. And then I added them to a bowl with a block of pressed and crumbled tofu. Then I stirred in lots of scallions, garlic, and I used dried ground ginger just because I forgot to buy fresh ginger, don't tell anyone. And I seasoned the filling with soy sauce, white pepper, and sesame oil. Pretty simple. I am not the best at folding gyoza in the first place, but the fact that the wrappers were a little too thin and soft made it even more challenging, but I persevered.
I actually have no idea how to do this. Oh no!
I'm just sending it. I'm just absolutely going for it.
It's not so good.
Oh my god!
It's a little pouch. I don't know. It's like dim sum.
There's something wrong with mine.
Last year, back when we were living in Washington, in December, we lost power a couple different times over the course of the month. And one of those days, I happened to have made a bunch of gyoza just like this. And I remember we lost power and we were sitting in the dark. We had the fireplace lit. We had candles around the house so that we could see. And we were just sitting in the darkness in the living room eating my homemade gyoza. And we were playing Mario Kart on handheld Switch because obviously all of our other electronics were not on. So that's just a random kind of memory that I now am always going to have ingrained in my head. And I'm going to think about it every time I make gyoza. And despite the snags I hit along the way, I was actually very satisfied with how the gyoza came out. We topped them with our favorite chili crisp from Fly by Jing, and they were so good. We ate all of them over the course of 2 days, and I'm already really excited to make another batch and see what I can improve. The next day is very much a blur. I spent most of it doing prep work for our Friendsgiving the next day. So here's me making a sourdough loaf specifically to chop up and turn into stuffing later. And quite honestly, here's the conclusion that Eric and I came to this year. From now on, we are going to simplify our Thanksgiving menu. I feel like we make so many of these dishes just out of a sense of tradition. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Thanksgiving cuisine is not my favorite thing. Like, it's good, but I feel like I'm a simple girl. I'd be satisfied with just like mashed potatoes, gravy, like a Gardein roast, and maybe something green like asparagus or green beans or Brussels sprouts. And then a dessert. I would be happy with that. And yet for some reason, year after year, I end up overcommitting myself and just making too many things. So I'm not doing that next year. Remind me I said this. So here I am making vegan caramel because I kept seeing the viral milk bar caramel pumpkin pie on TikTok and I wanted to try it out. Now, the original recipe has like 5 parts. I did decide to simplify it a little bit, but the base layer is this gooey homemade caramel. And this part was actually super easy to veganize. I just used non-dairy butter and I used cashew cream instead of heavy cream. I think you could use like any kind of plant milk. Then the next layer is a white chocolate pumpkin ganache. For that, you need to spread out some pumpkin puree on a baking sheet and roast it. And this condenses the flavor and it cooks off the extra liquid. Then for the body of the ganache, I used full-fat coconut milk instead of heavy cream and a non-dairy white chocolate. It's kind of hard to find a good non-dairy white chocolate. I don't recommend the brand I use. Definitely check the label and make sure they're using actual cocoa butter and it's not just all palm oil and sugar. I didn't do enough research, but lesson learned. But the white chocolate ganache just gets blended with the roasted pumpkin puree and some pumpkin pie spice till it's nice and smooth. The original recipe uses a cornmeal crust, but I made a graham cracker crust instead. And then after the crust bakes and cools, you pour in your caramel layer first. Then that needs a chance to chill and firm up before you add in the pumpkin ganache. And then the ganache needs to chill as well. So my plan was to just let the pie chill overnight and then top it with whipped coconut cream the next morning, right before we headed to our Friendsgiving. I also had volunteered to make the roast, and for that I made a slightly fancier version of my vegan deli slices recipe. Really the only difference was that I added some sauteed onions, garlic, and herbs that I cooked with some olive oil, and I deglazed with white wine to make it kind of fancy. But other than that, the recipe's prepared the exact same way as the deli slices. You just blend up the tofu with all the flavoring, and then use the food processor to knead in the vital wheat gluten. You can bake it, but I like to wrap mine in a reusable cheesecloth and steam it in the Instant Pot. Then last thing before I went to bed, I just did a little extra prep work for the following day, chopped some stuff up, checked on my roast. And the next morning was super chaotic, just trying to finish everything before we headed over to our friend's house. I started to feel paranoid that there wasn't going to be enough roast for the 6 of us, so I made another emergency roast, and we glazed those with a mixture of Dijon, maple, and brown sugar. It was so good. This was also the first time I've ever added sausage to my stuffing. I used a full package of Beyond sausage, and I highly recommend it. Also roasted some Brussels sprouts and butternut squash. And Eric made a really simple onion gravy. Then I topped the pie with coconut whipped cream, and we were on our way. And our Friendsgiving was a success. It was super fun to be with our friends. Last year when we were in Washington, we spent Thanksgiving alone, so it was nice to be back in Colorado. We ate early and then we headed home on the earlier side too because we were expecting a snowstorm. And since I'm from California, I am super paranoid about driving in the snow. And we just wanted to get home before the roads got too bad. Something I've been doing lately is making a big batch of lentil soup each week, and this might sound odd, but this has actually been my go-to breakfast. I like the idea of oatmeal, you know, something warm, healthy, and budget-friendly to eat in the morning that doesn't require a lot of effort or thinking. But I just can't get the habit of eating oatmeal to stick because I usually don't crave sweet breakfasts. So I thought that lentil soup would be a good savory alternative, and I know that savory oatmeal is technically a thing, but it just doesn't seem that appealing to me. One thing I would like to try though is congee. Maybe I'll try that in an upcoming video. So I just chop up a bunch of aromatic veggies and potatoes, and I also like to soak my lentils and rinse them really well before they go into the soup. I think it just makes them easier on my tummy that way. And typically I'll make a huge batch of the soup for dinner one evening, and then for the next few days I'll have it for breakfast. And it's great. I love having a breakfast option that I don't have to think too hard about, but that still makes me feel really nourished. The next day, Eric made a big batch of chili. So usually we do a bean and veggie chili, but this time we wanted to make kind of like a vegan version of hormel chili, so mostly meat and beans. I did chop up some onions and peppers just to bulk it up, and I diced them fine so that they would almost like melt into the chili so there would be no big chunks. Then we added crushed tomatoes, some beef style veggie bouillon, lots of spices, and then 2 cans of beans. And Eric always adds a splash of beer to his chili. We cooked this up in the Instant Pot so we could leave it on the slow cook setting pretty much all day, and this gave it so much flavor. I also tested a cornbread recipe. The issue I've had since going vegan is that cornbread's always kind of dry, so this time I tried adding in some applesauce for extra moisture. The flavor was really good, but I do think I need to bump up the liquids in this recipe overall. We had some extra Brussels sprouts that I bought before Thanksgiving, and I just sauteed those in some vegan butter to serve as a side. Another thing I've been loving to make lately is homemade tortillas, and you guys, they are so easy to make and they're so delicious. Like, I literally cannot go back to buying them from the store because they taste 10 times better when they're fresh. The dough is just flour, salt, warm water, and oil or vegan butter. Just mix it together, knead the dough, and then divide it into portions and roll those into balls. Then give those some time to relax and hydrate, and then roll them out. I like to cook them on my cast iron pan, and it literally takes less than a minute per side. Just make sure your pan is really hot, and then flip the tortilla when it starts to blister. And then once they're done, you keep them wrapped in a towel so they stay nice and soft and flexible. So I used these to make tacos out of the leftover chili, and they were so good. And I really, really want to buy a tortilla press now so that I can make homemade corn tortillas as well. The next day I made a batch of mushroom stroganoff. I actually had bought a bunch of mushrooms because I was planning to make a vegan shepherd's pie with lentils and mushrooms. But do you ever shop for a recipe and then later on you're just like not really feeling it? That's what happened here. I just wasn't really craving shepherd's pie after Thanksgiving, and the mushrooms were starting to go bad, so I just decided to chop them all up and make a big batch of stroganoff instead. So I like to give the mushrooms a head start and really cook off as much of the excess moisture in there as possible before I add in the other ingredients. And the key to make it super savory is to use beef style bouillon. I mean, I use these in pretty much every single video. They're like a staple in my pantry. Add a little sprinkle of flour to help thicken it, and then add in cashew cream instead of sour cream, some Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of Dijon mustard, and this was really delicious, and it was way easier to make than a big batch of shepherd's pie. So I call that a win. So that wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I love you. I hope you're having a happy and healthy holiday season, and I'll see you again very soon in my next video.